Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed the 49ers preseason. It is now officially over. 24-24 tie against the Raiders on Friday night. I remember a time specifically, forget what year, but the 49ers played an overtime game in the preseason. I'm pretty sure it was against the Chargers at Candlestick Park. I remember thinking, even at my young age at that point, thinking, what the heck are we doing here? And finally, in 2021, the NFL decided no more ties. Okay, so preseason is over. The 49ers will have a practice on Monday, and then they do the cuts to 53 players on Tuesday. So there's 90 players on their roster right now. That does not include Trent Williams, who's on the reserve, did not report list. I would expect that he would report this coming week. Um, I know it's kind of billed as like all or nothing on cut down day, but the fact of the matter is, with 17 players eligible for the practice squad, that includes one international player. It's basically, I think the way teams view it, that 90-man roster now goes to a 70-man roster because practice squad players can be elevated for games. And a lot of teams like the 49ers use that option on a weekly basis. It just seems like more often than not, the 49ers are calling up two guys from the practice squad to be able to play in games. So let's kind of go through this. And I will say this, it was a very odd training camp from the sense of, yes, the 49ers have had contract issues in the past, but never to this degree, whereas two guys, two notable guys at once, one being a hold in, Brandon Ayuk, he travels to Vegas. I'm not sure, still not sure what to make of that. I would, like I said, I mean, the optics are that he's going to be with the team. Why else would the 49ers have him travel with the team to Vegas? But when I asked Kyle Shanahan about it after the game, he said no, doesn't signal anything. He's on the team, so they expect their non-injured players to travel. Well, Brandon Ayuk apparently has, a back issue, and that's why he hasn't been practicing. Obviously, we all know why he's not practicing. He doesn't have the contract. And then, of course, Trent Williams, the holdout, more than $4 million. Dollars. I think it's like $4.3 million in fines that he's accrued as a holdout. And when will he be back with the team? I would also think that this coming week would be the more appropriate time for him and the 49ers to kind of figure out what they want to do, moving a lot of that non-guaranteed money into guarantees. So I just don't know what to make of this from the 49ers standpoint. The emphasis last year was on getting off to a really good start to ensure that or to better ensure that they have home field advantage. Only one team in each conference gets home field advantage. This year, I can't say that the 49ers are set up for a good start at all. And I would say that game Monday night against the Jets, where they're putting everything into this, and it's a make or break year for Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh and that entire staff. So, man, I just don't know what to think. If I were objectively looking at this, which I always try to objectively look at it, I just don't see how the 49ers have set themselves up for a good start to the season. If Ayuk and Trent Williams are on the team, did either of those players, two guys the 49ers are really counting on, did they go through all the work necessary to get off to a good start and maintain a high level of play throughout the season? I don't think so. Okay, so let's just go to the roster. Like I said, they have to cut to 53 players on Tuesday. They'll probably keep at least two guys. I'd say two guys on the 53 man who will immediately go on injured reserve the next day. And I'm thinking of Kalia Davis for one and John Feliciano for the other. So they'll try to bring back two guys that they cut almost immediately. Let's just go through it. Okay, quarterback, pretty clear cut, I think. Brock Purdy, Brandon Allen, and Joshua Dobbs, whichever order 2 and 3 is. I think it is very close. I think Dobbs did make some strides in learning the system, looking more comfortable. And then he has that playmaking gene. And obviously showed that he doesn't need a whole lot of practice snaps and reps during the week to be ready to step into the game. So we'll see how that shakes out. I think running back is also very cut and dried. It's going to be Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk. Those are the starters. And then Jordan Mason, I think Elijah Mitchell, and Isaac Grindo. Mitchell would be the guy that, yeah, he hasn't practiced much, didn't play at all in the preseason, but I think he's done enough where the 49ers know what they're getting in him. And so I think he stays on the 53 man with Matt Breida and Corey Schrader being guys that they could look to as practice squad players. 5 of the 6 wide receivers are pretty much locked in, assuming, of course, that Ayuk remains with the 49ers. Those 5 are Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Jacob Cowing. Cowing has, I think, absolutely locked down a spot. Not that there was any real question because he is a 4th-round draft pick. And I think probably has earned the right to be the punt returner to open the season. Trent Taylor probably best suited right now for the practice squad. And then it's one spot. Is it Chris Conley because of his special teams ability? Would they keep Ronnie Bell or Danny Gray? Robbie Chosen, I think probably is going to be on the outside looking in on this one because he doesn't play special teams. So I'd say one spot remaining among the receivers, and Chris Conley could be that guy. Tight ends, my thought on the tight ends has changed a little bit here over the past couple of weeks. Cameron Latu, of course, well documented, did not look good as a rookie in training camp, ended up spending the entire season on injured reserve. As far as this year, over the last couple of weeks, he's made significant strides. And what we saw in the game on Friday was basically a reflection of how he's practiced in recent weeks. So now I give him the edge to make the 53-man roster, 3rd-round draft pick. They don't want to give up on him. And I think he's coming on, making big enough strides in recent weeks that he will have a spot, my opinion, on the 53. So it'd be George Kittle, Braden Willis, Eric Saubert, and Cameron Latu. The offensive line is a little bit difficult because it's just hard to evaluate those backup offensive linemen. But the locks would certainly be Aaron Banks, who the 49ers hope to have back for week 1, Jake Brendel, Colton McKivitz, Dominic Pooney, Jalen Moore, and then we're assuming Trent Williams. So that's 6 guys right there. They'll keep another 3. I think Nick Zakelj has played well enough at center and guard to be that kind of swing player. Spencer Burford was a starter last year. I'm sure he'll be back on the team. Then who's that other guy? Is it Chris Hubbard or Brandon Parker? 2 veteran guys who can play tackle. And I know the 49ers would probably like to keep around Ben Barch and Jared Kingston. So those are the guys, maybe Drake Nugent as well. So a lot of kind of moving parts there on the offensive line. The defensive line, what a scare on Friday night for John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and everybody involved with the 49ers because they went out and tried to really beef up defensive end. They paid Leonard Floyd $20 million over 2 years, Yetur Gross-Matos $18 million over 2 years, and finally it looked like they had 2 other defensive ends that were very good complements to Nick Bosa. So both Floyd and Gross-Matos go out with knee injuries. After the game, Kyle Shanahan said that there's not an ACL sprain, which means some sort of torn ligament, maybe the MCL. So a much lower time frame, less time frame to get back on the field. Could they be available for week 1? Yes. It helps that the 49ers have what now? 16 days before the start of the regular season. So Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, who is a load inside. I think the 49ers run defense will be better because of him. Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott, Kevin Givens. And then I think they probably keep Robert Beal as well. 8 defensive linemen, Robert Beal with the speed, the edge rush capabilities. And then Clea Davis will be back later in the season. Drake Jackson goes on reserve PUP a couple weeks ago, so he's out for the year. So that's kind of where I think the defensive line will shake out. Linebacker, 49ers have some players there. And obviously, Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, D. Winters. I think those guys are solid. Um, and then Dre Greenlaw will come back a little bit later in the season. He'll go on reserve PUP on Tuesday. But Curtis Robinson has definitely done enough to win a roster spot. Jalen Graham, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles is still in the mix. And then the rookie Tatum Bethune. So I almost think that anybody the 49ers end up cutting off the 53, if they're not claimed off waivers, and some of these young guys could be claimed off waivers by another team, anybody that clears waivers, I think the 49ers would want to bring back to the practice squad, to their 17-man practice squad. Cornerback is, I think, fairly well set with Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, and Isaac Yadam. I think Darrell Luter makes it, but it's going to be really close between Luter and Samuel Womack. What Womack brings to the table is nickelback capabilities, but perhaps the 49ers could be thinking that if they need somebody, the way I see it right now, Diamador Lenore starts it on the outside, slides into nickel in passing situations. And then Renardo Green or Yadam takes over on the outside. So that's an upgrade over last year when they had Ambry Thomas out there whenever Lenore would slide inside. If the 49ers need another nickel back, if Diamador Lenore breaks his shoestring in the middle of a game and needs to come out, probably Renardo Green slides into nickel with Yadam on the outside. So Luter and Womack, those are the two guys that I think it'll come down to for the fifth cornerback. Safety seems pretty cut and dried as long as Talanoa Hufanga is cleared for the opening of the regular season. He's supposed to return to practice this week. Will he be ready week 1? We'll see. Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, George Odom, and Hufanga. Those would be the 4 safeties, with Tracy Walker, a guy who played some years with the Detroit Lions, can play special teams and safety. He's kind of on the bubble as it stands right now. And then special teams is pretty, again, there's not a whole lot of discussion there. Although the punter, Presley Harvin, came in. He had punted in the past with the Steelers. But not a spot for him with Jake Moody, Mitch Wishnowsky, and Tabor Pepper. So that's how I see the roster kind of shaking out. And one thing to keep in mind, I would say with running back, I would say with potentially offensive line, but also linebacker, the 49ers do have some surplus of players who can make the rosters of other teams. Perhaps the 49ers will be in the market to trade, to pick up some draft picks down the road, conditional 6th, conditional 7th round picks, something like that. So I would suspect that they feel like they have a good roster, that they're going to be cutting NFL guys, and some of those guys could end up on other teams. So instead of exposing them to waivers and getting nothing for them, the 49ers will definitely over the next couple of days be looking to trade some of those assets in order to get some draft picks for the future in return. So that's kind of a look at as the 49ers last night finish off the preseason slate. And we'll keep you posted on NBC Sports Bay Area with all the updates. Who knows? There might be an emergency podcast being dropped soon. Jennifer and I also, after the game, posted a podcast where we talked a little bit more in depth and broke down more of the specifics of the final preseason game. So thanks for checking in, and we'll be back shortly